Think of the 5 people closest to you, not the 5 most impressive. The 5 whose messages you answer fastest. The 5 whose disappointment would stay in your chest. The 5 who can change your mood before you have decided what mood you are in. Now imagine them sitting around a table, their sleep schedules, their jokes, their spending, their ambition, their bitterness, their courage, their idea of what a normal life is supposed to cost. Nothing dramatic happens. Nobody gives a speech, but the room is already voting on you. There is a line often attributed to Jim Rohn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It sounds like advice. It also sounds like a threat, because if it is true, the self is not private property. It is partly a neighborhood. But is it true? Not motivationally, scientifically. Does the inner circle actually become the self, or do we simply choose people who were already shaped like us? That question is where the slogan stops being self-help and becomes a mystery about social gravity. The number 5 is not completely random. In Robin Dunbar's work on the social brain, human relationships tend to appear in layers. The famous outer number is about 150, but the innermost layer is much smaller. It is not a fan base. It is a survival system. That inner layer is often called the support clique. Roughly 5 people, the people you would expect to help when life actually breaks, illness, grief, rent, panic. The people whose absence would change the room. They are not just contacts. They are the humans your nervous system treats as infrastructure. This does not prove Rohn's quote. Dunbar was not saying 5 people mathematically average your personality. He was describing the limited number of relationships the mind can hold at crisis-level closeness. The number gives the slogan emotional plausibility, not scientific permission. Still, the number feels true because intimacy has weight. A stranger can criticize you and vanish. A close friend can make one sentence feel like a weather system. Their approval does not merely feel nice. It changes which parts of you feel safe to bring outside. The first scientific problem is simple. Friends are similar, but similarity does not tell us which direction the arrow points. A network can look like influence even when it is mostly selection. In 2001, McPherson, Smith, Lovin, and Cook published a major review with the title Birds of a Feather. The principle is homophily. People tend to form ties with people who resemble them. Similarity is not a side effect of friendship. It is one of the engines that makes friendship likely. Same school, same class background, same jokes, same drinking culture, same church, same app, same city, same wounds hidden under different clothes. We call it chemistry, but sometimes chemistry is just the relief of not translating yourself. So if your 5 closest friends are ambitious, it may be because they made you ambitious. It may also be because ambition was the ticket into the room where you found each other. The room did not create the trait. It selected for people who could already breathe there. The pattern gets stranger. In 2018, Carolyn Parkinson, Adam Kleinbaum, and Thalia Wheatley put students in scanners while they watched naturalistic videos. Friends showed especially similar neural responses. Their brains did not become identical, but their moment-to-moment interpretations of the same world rhymed. The closer 2 people were in the social network, the more similarly their brains responded. But the authors were careful. The study was cross-sectional. It could not prove whether friendship caused the similarity or similarity helped create the friendship. That caution is the difference between science and a caption. That is the first correction. Your friends may not make you similar. You may choose them because they already feel like home. The trap is mistaking a mirror for a machine. But the skeptical answer is not enough either. Influence is real. We know this best when researchers can break the selection problem. The cleanest evidence appears when people do not fully choose who surrounds them. In 2001, Bruce Sacerdote studied Dartmouth freshmen whose roommates and dormmates were randomly assigned. Random assignment matters because students did not simply choose people like themselves. For once, the social room was partly shuffled before the story began. He found peer effects on grade point average and fraternity participation, but not everything moved. Roommates did not strongly reshape every major life decision. Influence had borders. People are permeable, but they are not open windows in a storm. In 2012, Bond and colleagues ran a Facebook experiment involving 61 million people. Some users saw a voting message with social information about friends who had voted. The important ingredient was not information alone. It was information wearing the face of a tie. The social message changed political expression, information seeking, and real-world voting behavior. The strongest transmission ran through close ties. The friend did not just inform. The friend made action feel locally normal. A behavior becomes easier when it arrives with proof that someone like you already crossed the line. In 2016, Epilogue, Shepard and Aronow ran a network experiment in 56 schools. They recruited socially influential students to change visible norms around conflict. The study treated schools not as collections of isolated choices, but as norm climates. The intervention reduced disciplinary conflict in treatment schools. The lesson is not that every student obeyed the popular kid. The lesson is subtler. Some people carry the local weather. When they visibly change what is acceptable, the hallway itself starts to feel different. Centola's online network experiments add another piece. Certain behaviors spread better when people receive reinforcement from more than one contact. One friend may suggest. Several friends can make it feel real. Repetition from a cluster can turn an odd idea into a local common sense. So influence exists, but it is not a liquid poured from one person into another. It depends on tie strength, visibility, repetition, and whether the behavior needs social proof before it feels safe. The question is not whether people affect you. The question is through which doors. This is where the word contagion becomes tempting. Christakis and Fowler's 2007 paper in the New England Journal of Medicine found that obesity clustered across a large social network over time. The result became famous because it made private bodies look socially patterned. The image was powerful. Weight, happiness, smoking, loneliness, spreading from person to person like weather across a map. It made social life look biological. It also made the story dangerously easy to oversimplify. But the criticism matters. Cosma Shalazy and Andrew Thomas argued that homophily and contagion are generically confounded in observational network studies. The same pattern can come from different causes. A beautiful network diagram can still be hiding three stories in one picture. Your friend gains weight. You gain weight. Did their habits infect you? Did you both choose the same restaurants? Did you share a neighborhood where walking was harder and cheap food was easier? The moral changes depending on the answer. The network picture alone cannot always tell the difference. That is why the five-person theory is dangerous when it becomes too clean. Clean stories are satisfying because they remove the world from the equation. The honest answer has three arrows. You choose people like you. They change you. And together, you are changed by the world you share. Any serious version of the five-person theory has to keep all three arrows on screen. So no, you are not literally the average of 5 incomes, 5 body weights, 5 IQ scores, or 5 morning routines. That version turns people into spreadsheet cells and friendship into a performance hack. What gets averaged is quieter. Your threshold for embarrassment, your definition of trying, your tolerance for complaint, your sense of what kind of future is realistic for someone like you. It is less like arithmetic and more like calibration. Cialdini and colleagues call part of this normative conduct. Descriptive norms tell you what people like us do. Injunctive norms tell you what people like us approve. One is a map of behavior. The other is a map of permission. Festinger's social comparison theory adds the older mechanism. When there is no objective ruler, we measure ourselves against nearby people. Nearby matters. The comparison that hurts most is usually close enough to feel fair. If everyone around you treats exhaustion as proof of ambition, rest starts to feel suspicious. If everyone around you treats tenderness as weakness, honesty starts arriving in disguise. You do not need a rule book when the room has facial expressions. If everyone around you talks about money with shame, wanting more can feel vulgar. If everyone around you talks about failure like data, risk becomes easier to survive. The same mistake can become humiliation in one circle and tuition in another. This is the average that matters, not the average of achievement, the average of permission. The line should not be, you become their numbers. It should be, you inherit their limits unless you notice them. Your friends do not become your average. They become your permission structure. They teach the body which desires can be spoken without punishment. Every inner circle has a local law. Some groups punish hope, some punish sincerity, some punish ambition, some punish staying small. None of this has to be explicit. Culture is what everyone knows without needing to announce. You can feel this law when you bring a new desire into the room, a new job, a new body, a new boundary, a new kind of relationship. The room either makes oxygen or takes it away. Before anyone responds, you already know whether you are about to be enlarged or reduced. Nobody has to say no. The glance is enough. The joke is enough. The silence after you say something sincere is enough. Humans are exquisitely trained to hear social consequences before they become words. This is why changing cities, schools, jobs, or friend groups can feel like changing personalities. The self was not replaced. The gravitational field changed. A different room can make the same desire feel less ridiculous. One group makes you the careful one. Another makes you the wild one. One group makes you the successful one. Another makes you the underachiever. The same person gets assigned different roles by different rooms. At first you perform the role. Later, the role starts remembering you. That role becomes sticky. After enough repetitions, you stop saying, "This is who I am" with them. You say, "This is who I am." Identity often begins as a social prediction that nobody challenged in time. That is the quiet violence of the inner circle. It can make a temporary role feel like a permanent identity. And sometimes the only way to test the role is to step into a room that does not recognize it. The cheap lesson is to cut off everyone who is not useful. That is not what the science says. It is what an optimization culture does to friendship when it runs out of imagination. It mistakes care for leverage and calls the result strategy. Friends are not assets. They are not productivity supplements. They are not 5 human vitamins you consume to become rich and disciplined. A relationship that exists only to upgrade you has already become a transaction wearing intimacy as a costume. The better question is not, are these people impressive enough? The better question is, what version of me becomes easier around them? This question is slower, less glamorous, and much harder to fake. Who makes honesty easier? Who makes cruelty easier? Who makes patience easier? Who makes contempt feel intelligent? Who makes your future larger without turning you into a project? The answer is rarely the same person for every part of life. And then the harder reversal. You are also one of someone's 5. You are part of the room that teaches another person what is normal. Your presence is never neutral just because you are not giving advice. Your cynicism is not private. Your courage is not private. Your way of speaking about love, money, bodies, and failure becomes part of another person's weather. You are either making certain futures easier to imagine or harder to admit. You are not only being shaped, you are shaping. The gravity runs both ways. The inner circle is not a cage you discover. It is a field you participate in. Return to the table. 5 chairs, 5 voices. The quote was wrong in the way slogans are wrong. Too smooth, too certain, too useful to be fully true. It pretended to be math because math feels clean. But it was not empty. The people closest to you do not add up and divide into a final answer. They tilt the floor underneath your choices. They make one path feel like rebellion and another feel like common sense. They make some selves feel expensive and other selves feel cheap. They make some futures feel embarrassing and others feel obvious. That is why the question is not only who are they, it is what becomes possible when you are together. You are not the average of 5 people. You are the shape of what those people made feel possible. And if you can see the shape, you can begin to choose the room with more care. Claymind may have overthought this one, but if it made you think, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.